Okay, we're back for talk number 2, and that is because we got lots of good positive reaction to the videos I put up with that the matriarch, as we're calling her, is doing with her 8 dogs and also with her 8-year-old dog. And this is basically doing things that other people that are millionaire dog trainers, and let's not lie, cannot do. Although they're making $1 million a year or more, they can't do these things. Although they tell you that they're great trainers and that they can accomplish so much, but they can't do it. And a lot of people will run away, like they run away from me also, because they can't do what she's done. They will not work with 8 dogs at the same time ever. And they certainly won't work with 8 dogs that are different types of dogs that all have neglected, abused backgrounds or tortured or abandoned. All these things, psychologically, physically, emotionally distressed dogs. And this is what is needed, is the ability to work with these types of dogs. And so she's obviously done that. And also, she recently just pulled off, I had videos up. Everyone should know at this point in time, good reactions so far, about emulating my quarter mile. And that is with her dog, Peaches, who's 8 years old. And she's doing a downstay and then a recall from that distance, and jumps into the car at the end, which is a good, I like that. That's a cool thing too. And so people, these are facts. Like you can't argue with results. And too many people want to just babble and do ideologies and all that. But what we're going to talk about today is something that a lot of people, so how is it possible? How is it possible that I can do the things that I can do? How is it possible that she can do the things that she can do? Like, who is she? Where is she? Well, she's in Hawaii. That's a pretty small population, really, of the people that are available in Hawaii. So if you want to get her sage advice, training on how to do things, you tune into our vidcast. But you also can do consults with her through the internet, like we're doing here. Different ways to do that, but I just want to put that out there because, take advantage of the resource, people. Take advantage of the resource. So anyway, what we're going to talk about today is how are we able to do certain things? Well, it goes back to what we would call the relationship with the dog. Very important. The bonding is what I call it. In fact, one of my websites is the deep dog bond method. And that is something that is crucial to establishing ability to do it. For example, she's going to tell you here, I'll turn it over to her in a minute, and explain some of the process. Now, again, people, what she does with a particular dog or what I do with a particular dog fits that dog. It doesn't fit every dog. It's like, again, one medicine does not cure all diseases. It would be good for one specific, say, malaria. It works for malaria. That's not going to work when you have another type of disease like yellow fever. It's not going to work for that. So you have to know. And that's the thing about training for such many decades, like we both have, is that we know which medication will work for this disease. Now, this is a problem that a lot of people have. They try to use panacea. Oh, this works. So I'll use it everywhere. It doesn't work that way. It's one of the things that I've talked about. You have to know, to really be a great trainer, you have to know 6 or 7 different ways to be able to train a dog. But then you also have to be able to know how to read a dog. But this goes to the relationship level. So anyway, turning it over to you, Jean. What you want to explain to us a little bit about Peach's background? That's the dog. That's the 8-year-old dog that does the recall.
I'll do my best not to drone on too long about this. It's very detailed and such, but essentially, I'll try to give you the short version if I can. I tend to talk way too much, so forgive me if I drone on. So let me know. Anyway, basically, I was in Kenya and I was coming home from, Kenya. I was in the Netherlands, and I had this overwhelming urgency that came over me that I needed to go to the Humane Society. Okay, so let's go a little bit further. So after 5 days of returning here to Hawaii, which was on a Wednesday, the urgency was just overwhelming. I've never experienced anything like this before, but I went ahead and I left, went to the Humane Society 5 minutes before it closed. I walked up and down the aisles to see all the kennels, and nothing in particular stood out. There was a little black and white dog, some kind of, it looked like some kind of Jack Russell and some other type of terrier mix, jumping all over the place, insane, crazy. All these dogs were barking, of course, stressed out. Being in a shelter is always very stressful for a dog. And I noticed in the back of the kennel, it appeared to be some kind of little fuzzy toy. I swear it was only about this big. Okay, looked like somebody had thrown a little stuffed toy in there, and it was white. I saw a little bit of black on it. That time, I did not realize that this was a living dog. I noticed a little flick, and what I saw was a flick of an ear, but I wasn't sure because it's such a tight bundle, kind of almost like looking at a Tribble from Star Trek, if you remember that.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So tight. Then I spoke to this dog, and she raised the head raised just slightly, and we made eye contact. And from there on, she actually unfurled herself and very slowly made it over to the kennel door. From that point on, we just kind of I realized at that point that was the reason I was there. I was told by the one of the employees there at the shelter, come in, pick up Peaches, and walk and carry her outside to try to get her out of the kennel, and she would always freeze up. She had incredible fear. I mean, it was beyond anything I personally have ever seen. And I've seen some pretty scared dogs in my life. She would defecate, she would urinate, shake, she would freeze. It was really awful. And anyway, so I managed to get her home. She vomited several times in my car. She froze up in the parking lot, so I had to pick her up and put her in my car. This was the kind of thing I was dealing with, and it went on for about 4 months. And at one point, I was really beginning to wonder if I did the best for this dog, because I mean, she was having such a hard time trying to adjust. She would not be in the same room with me. She was hiding all the time. I pulled out all my tricks, all the tricks, all the stops. I still was having difficulty with her making eye contact with me. She wouldn't even look my way. I mean, this dog was so shut down. And I mean, it was almost as if she had just given up on living. So anyway, as it turns out, about 4.5 months, I had got her in the car, and first time she did not vomit. Now, it may not seem like a big deal, but this was major for her. And from then on, soon afterwards, I was laying in the front room on the couch watching TV, and she approached me for the first time, and she sniffed my hand. And I'm telling you, I went to tears because it was such a major thing. And I knew from there on we were going to be okay. So over the course of the next a year, we worked together. We worked on getting trust. Very slow movements. If I moved suddenly, she was gone. She had to see everything I did. Anyway, I managed to get her in the car, and she got to a point where she was okay with sitting in the back seat, as long as she could reach up and tap me ever so often. But she had to tap me and have that physical contact. When we were out in public, if I didn't put a leash on her and she saw me holding it, she would have issues. So there was a real problem I could see with abandonment. So anyway, like I explained in my other video, here in Hawaii where I live, we don't have the regular systems like a lot of people do. Because everything's solid rock, and we're lucky when we get electricity out here. We don't have the usual, sewer systems and stuff like a lot of people. The normal stuff, you turn on the faucet and get a drink of water. We don't have that here. We have to go to what's called water stations, or otherwise we have to buy our water from the stores. So anyway, in this particular time, I had backed up towards the spigot because I had to go and get water. Peaches was doing an awesome job. She was sitting, she was waiting. I made the mistake because I had her outside so she could go potty and stuff. And she came back to the car, and I made the mistake of closing the door. And you could see it. I mean, she went from the happy tail wagging, relaxed face to total tension. Her eyes dilated, and she began shaking. And all of my previous thoughts had been confirmed at that moment. That dog had been abandoned. Somehow they may have thrown her out the car, they may have tricked her, whatever it might have been, but she had been abandoned, and it had something to do with the car. Now, I mean, she can't wait to play and go in the car and stuff, but it took a long time. I had to build trust. She had to understand what I was doing every time I moved. Eventually, I got her to eat out of my hand, and that was kind of tricky because she was afraid of an open hand. She was afraid of brooms. She was afraid of loud noises. She was really messed up. But over time, I mean, it would take forever to explain everything that this dog has been through and what we went through. One day, I knew I had it. I left. I didn't realize that she could get through my cat door. It's just about like that big. It's just very small. Somehow this dog got through the cat door. And when I got home, I thought, oh no, she didn't have her collar on or anything because she was really afraid of wearing collars. Couldn't approach her on that kind of thing. And there she was at the end of the path. My path is 100 feet from my cabin. She was just sitting there waiting for me. And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
knew that was going to be okay then. But that's basically it. And then we start after a year. I began working with her as becoming a service dog. I knew she had the ability to do it, and it took 3 years to train her as a diabetic alert dog. I hope this helps because there are so many details involved.
Right. We cannot go into the minute details. Well, what is salient here, what people should pick up is that this is a long process, and
Very much.
the people who think that it's going to be short and sweet, it's not going to happen like that, or the people who take it, they go to the pound, the shelter, which is a malapropism because it's not a shelter. The rescues, all these places, and they get a dog and they have the dog for 2 or 3 days, and the dog barks, the dog does this 3 days. I mean,
Yeah.
we're talking. Oh, you need over 3 months, and this is the reality that real professionals are not telling you, or the ones who are, you're not listening to, because it's not something that can be changed just like somebody fitting into another culture. If, say, for example, a normal U.S. person, they cannot make it as an expat. They cannot make it. I lived the conditions you're talking about. I lived in harder conditions than that. I mean, I lived in the jungle for 17 years. So these sorts of things, they don't faze me. But most people, 98% can't take it. They couldn't do it. So these are the things. The same thing with the dogs. It's a relationship. Take time because you got to build up solid loyalty and
Yes.
trust. And you cannot betray that at any point in time.
I'm
Because
glad you brought that up as my own feelings. This is one of the reasons why I refuse to let any of my dogs go. It took such a long time. I mean, they have been betrayed for so long and so many times by humans, and they finally find that one human that they eventually learn to trust. And you've got to work very hard as a human being to deserve that trust. I mean, there's so much I have to go through, and I'm sure you probably have gone through this too. Working with dogs that have issues. It takes a long, long time. I sleep with my dogs.
yeah,
They're in my room with my dogs. I'm with them my free moment of the day. They know me. They know what I do. They know how I respond to things, just like I know them. As a matter of fact, I was just speaking to my friend Gail uh, when I made my other video recently. We were kind of joking around, and I told her that I know every hair on my dog's bodies. That's how well I know my dogs. Kind of laughed about it, but if you think about it, I do. I know every hair on my dog's bodies. I know every little bump or whatever it might be. I know every blink of the eye means, you know. But that doesn't just magically happen. You have to be there, and these dogs have to be able to understand that you're really there for them. And when I'm training them and I'm working with them, I let them know I believe in them. Nobody else believed in them. It's like bark or it's bark, 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 bark. Do this, do that, do that. But that's not how I train. I have deep connected relationships with every single one of my dogs. That is why I'm able to get them to do the stuff I do.
yep, that's exactly right now. And that's the thing, people. If you're not willing to go to the depths that the both of us go to with the dogs, you're not going to get the results that we get. But if you want to learn those exact methods, you need to be apprenticed to someone. You have to be mentored by someone who knows what they're really doing, and there aren't that many people. It's something that Robert Weatherwax and I talk about quite a bit, and so that's why I'm saying that take advantage of John will here or me and Robert also, because you're not going to find people with this many decades of dog knowledge out there, and it takes someone who really is not just doing it to make money, which a lot of nowadays, we've talked about this in our last video cast about how the proliferation of people since the suburban urban big craze of pet dog ownership and training in the mid 90s started. These people are in it for money. They don't know it. Plus, I'm sure, Sean, you get a kick out of this one when people, you'll hear these people saying, "Oh, I've been training dogs a long time. I started in 2014."
Oh, yeah, I know. And sometimes I say, "Oh, so you started to really? You were basically in diapers
Yeah.
by comparison of what I do, right?"
Well,
Yeah.
they,
Sometimes it depends on the person, because
yeah,
some
but
of them come across so
yeah, but I'm like, sit down, Junior. You know what I mean? Sit
yeah.
down. You don't know anything. I'm going. We're talking decades of training and seeing things come and different types of methods become popular and then not become popular. This sort of thing, like the group
Hmm.
classes, used to be very popular when you and I both started, as far as learning obedience stuff. And those have not; they don't even really exist
They don't
anymore.
bother with it anymore. Hmm.
Yeah, there are a few. There are a few here and there. There are a few people who left that still do that, but very few. But what I'm saying is, look, Junior, sit down, because how much you know is nothing compared to Oh, I've been training a long time. It's like it does. You don't know anything. You don't know. Like Robert and I said in one of our vidcasts, we will not recommend anybody who has less than 20 years. 20 years, people. 20 years.
I agree totally with that. And with that many years, you've seen things come and go. Hopefully, you figured out what actually works and how to go about truly approaching it. May I share a quick story with you? I hope it's quick. I went over to one of our hardware stores, and there was a lady there, and I had my guys with me, and they happened to have their e-collars on because we had been in a really large open area, and mainly I just use the collars to let the dogs know what they're going a little too far. I think 3,000 feet's far enough, especially when you're close to a highway or a freeway.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is about their safety and being able to get them to come home. Get back to me when I need it. So anyway, here we are. This woman comes out, and Peaches was there, and she stuck her head out the window, and this woman was aghast. "I thought you're a dog trainer and you torture your dogs." I'm like, "No, I've been training for a long time." She's, "Well, I'm a dog trainer and I would never use anything like that on my dog." And then I said, "So what kind of dog training do you do?" "Well, I use treats." And I did everything I could except I was so close to busting out laughing at her. All right. And I said, "So you do?" And she says, like, "Yeah, I use positive only training." I said, "Oh, okay. Do you mind if I show you something?" And she says, "Well, all right." Because she had this really type of attitude, right? I brought all the guys out. I had everybody do a sit stay. I walked to the end of the parking lot, and I called them. And everybody, as you know, did exactly what they were supposed to do. They turned, they all healed, told them to wait again. I walked a little ways, told them to come, wait again. And then I said, "Dogs, go car." Everybody went into it. And she stood there with her mouth hanging open on the ground. She says, "But you didn't give them any treats. My dogs are trained, but you didn't give them any treats." And that's what she kept saying over and over and over again. And I said, "Ma'am, you really need to learn how to train dogs, because giving them treats 24/7 is not the way you train. You have no relationship with the dog you're working with."
This goes to the fact that you have to know different ways, and there's different stages. There's different stages along the thing, along the path. One of the things that we try to do is just we try to cut people off from getting into these ideological, pointless argu-
Absolutely.
arguments, because like I said, we've had a saying. It's from one of my other businesses, actually, one of my other
Hey, baby.
pursuits, one of the other things that I do. And I've said it since the mid '90s, and it's true in that, it's true in this, and it's like others talk, we do. They're talking, and I think this is a good segue. Says I think that we should address something that is prevalent. It is that the people who are trying to detract from what you do or from what I do, the people who want to naysay what we do or naysay our results, or basically just dismiss them. They won't talk about them because they can't compete. They can't compete with them. They
I
can't
agree.
they can't do it. So, I'm going to throw names out because these are the people who have been irritating people to me. So I'm going to say it. Plus, they also shadow ban because they're passive aggressive and they want to remain in control. And of course, one of the biggest ones of that is that Taylor the Failure Wilkowski. who is banned me, refuses to take the the Jedi Dog Master Challenge because she can't do it. She doesn't train any dogs. She just makes comments. And there's Dale the Fail McCluskey, who's also shadow banned me, who can't do anything because he wants to babble. And then there is Robert Slow Catchup, it's like slow to catch up Hines, who is a delusional nutcase. I have been told that he had a brain tumor from somebody, and I think that maybe that's what the cause is. But this guy is just—he doesn't understand anything. He posts nothing. He of him doing results. His big claim to fame is he can walk a dog. He can't do anything. I say, but there are more people than that. Of course, Victoria Stillwell, because she'd rather kill a dog than find a way to solve the problem, cure the problem. And of course,
well, she doesn't have. I'm sorry for interrupting. She doesn't even know where to begin to help a dog.
yeah,
She's read some things, and she says that this is the scientific way of doing things. Well,
it's not, but
it's
it's not.
she doesn't know anything.
That's
She's
one of
a
the
dog
things.
walker.
That's one of the things that Zach the Hack George is doing too. There's a consensus. There is no consensus, and veterinarians don't train dogs. So the thing is that the veterinarians are not the people who train dogs. It's like saying, watch the American Medical Association. How many Olympic athletes have they trained? Zero. It's the same thing. It's not their expertise. It's not their area of doing anything. It's not, they don't do anything. So there's no reason to listen to this. And it's not all. It's the thing. So we're dealing with these people who are unable to actually do performance. And dog training is about results. It's not about talking. So this is one of the things that we want to bring out and address. So, Jean, do you have anything you want to say about these this particular specific people, or about the overall, that these people who are just babbling about stuff, but they never show you anything that they've accomplished with actual dogs?
I personally have a problem when veterinarians step in and start telling people. Cellini, I think is his name. He's one of the vets. He's a neurologist. He's been making a lot of comments lately regarding dog trainers who use balance training. I personally find it appalling because I don't tell him how to practice medicine. He's not a dog trainer. Why are these people stepping in and telling us as trainers that know what the heck we're doing, telling us how to do our jobs? We don't tell them how to practice vet medicine, do we? Totally different field. Well, we're behaviorists. Just because you're a behaviorist doesn't mean that you really know what you're doing. Whereas you would say, where are the results? Some people are really good at it, don't get me wrong, but the bandage doesn't fit every wound. And there's so many different techniques. There's so many different ways of working with even a single dog. And you have to be able to read the dog. You have to understand the dog. And so many people don't. The way these people are talking is like one size fits all, and it doesn't work.
No, absolutely, that's correct. And there is a progression, there is a process, and the process is particular to each specific dog, actually. And it's something that is not global. It's not universal. There's some universal things you can look for, universal ideas and strategies, but the tactics are individual. So that's something that takes time. And that's one of the things that we were talking about. Is that the fact that it's about the relationship, people, and this is something that takes time. You didn't give me cooking directions. But no, we didn't. But what we did do is we're telling you the ingredients. We're telling you the ingredients, and okay, now you might have the flour and the eggs and the milk and whatever have you, but it's the order that we place them in. It is how long that we do them that can create. That's why the master chef is, right? Because they know how to put the ingredients together, how to mix them. That's very important, because if you overdo the salt or something, you're going to ruin it. If you overdo the flour, you're going to ruin it. If you don't allow it to sit for an amount of time, you might ruin it. And if you have the wrong temperature, which I can use the temperature is in what sort of the tempo stress that you give the dog, because each dog needs a different level of activity, movement. As we say tactically, the tempo, how we're going to do that. If we need to bring it down or bring it up. Those sorts of things are very particular, and how you do it and how long you do it, that gets the result. Bake the cake, as it were.
Here's a thought. Forgive my interruption. Here's a thought. You have the same ingredients, for example, to make biscuits,
Yeah.
as you do to make pancakes, and those are the same ingredients that you use to make waffles. You have a different amounts, not much. There are some variations within it, and as you said, how long you mix it, uh, how much milk you add to it. If you add X amount of milk, you've got biscuits. You add a little more milk, you've got pancakes. If you add a little more oil, you've got waffles. It's all the same ingredients, but it's how you measure them, how you apply them, how long you're baking them, what kind of tools you're using. There's a big difference between a flat baking pan for the biscuits, or a pancake griddle for the pancakes, or a waffle griddle for the waffles. Those are different tools.
This is something I want to hit on because you kind of went into it a little bit there. And people are talking about tools. There's we have one decrier, one incredible idiot who's like, take away the tools. Oh, build a house. Take away the tools. Can't build a house. The smarter primates use tools. That's one of the things the Yerkes Primate Center did many tests on. If you're a primatologist at all, and these people, again, they're not cynologists. Look it up, people. I put this on there, and they're not primatologists, they're not ethologists, they're not behavioral ecologists. And if you don't know those terms, then you don't know.
They do not know how animals actually work.
But they don't understand also how to change that shape and how to do it. And then they want to decry it. Well, you can't do this, you can't do that. No, these are things that we use, and this is just a red herring. It's a nonsensical thing to bring up. So if you hear anyone say, you can't do it without tools, build a house without tools, asshole. You can't do it. Everything is a tool. Oh, I don't consider a leash a tool because it doesn't fit their ideology. That's all it is.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that's exactly what I said in one of my videos. When I was doing the video, I said, my voice is a tool. The way I touch my dog is a tool. My hands, the way I look at my dog is a tool. It's communication. That's all it is. It's communication. A leash is a tool. We have a dozen different collars out there. It's all a tool.
We could go on a long time about this. I just want to touch on these topics because they're interrelated. Everything is interrelated. There's a nexus to all these things. You really can't separate one thing from the other. We can't separate the relationship from the tools, and you can't separate the tools from the relationship, and you can't separate training from having a bond with the dog. And by bonding, there are people who say, I spent 2 days with the dog. You have no bond with the dog. I don't care what you
do. The dog has no idea who you are in 2 days.
No. Zero.
I don't think so.
No. People, it's all about this. And you have to pay your dues. You have to pay your dues for the learning. You have to pay your dues to the apprenticeship or the mentorship. But you see what's possible. And that's one of the things I wanted to say was I am glad that you saw what I did with my quarter mile, because I
loved it. I loved it. I've got to say, as I said in my video, Christophe, you are the bomb. I mean, you truly are the master dog trainer. And if anyone walks in and says you don't know what you're talking about, they're full of it, because you know what you're doing. You know the steps. You know exactly what you're doing. And so when I watch you on your videos, I've been doing this a long time, but you know what? I learned from some of the stuff that you do. Hey, I should have tried that. I didn't think about that. So that's how that's done. Zach and all these other people, they're so involved with themselves. They're so sure about themselves, and they don't know crap. They really don't know crap. But I mean, I get to watch you, and I love the fact that you are, putting up these videos, and it's like, oh, you know what? I know how he did that, but there's a little twist that I could try. That's what he did there. Let me try it, and it works. It works.
Well, the point is that I put these things out as motivation and inspiration for people, and I thought it would be a call to arms, as it were. Like, okay, hey, I'll do that too. And so many people, of course, the victim mentality that we have nowadays, everyone acted because they don't have the skill or the ability. Instead of admitting it and saying, hey, you're much better than I am, or hey, can I learn from you? No, that's not important. I don't need to do that. I'm a pet dog trainer. So you want to go to the worst doctor. If you need a doctor, you're going to go to the worst doctor. You should be learning. But what I'm glad to see is that it was motivation, inspiration for you to do the quarter mile. Now, of course, I can do my super dog, and I have gone much further than a quarter mile. But one of the things I want to tell people, if they try to do this, of course, it has to be a measured distance, but to be certain that it's safe and secure where you're doing it. Now, that's one of the problems I have. I can easily, at the place that I was at, if you see my zombie highway,
I saw it.
Yeah, that I can easily do over a half mile there, but I don't have people because I need people to make sure that nobody suddenly appears there or other animals suddenly appear there because I don't want anybody messing with my dog at all on while he's there. And so this is one of the things, and I have not been able to get reliable people. You probably have the same problem.
Oh yeah.
Reliable people to help. I've said, hey, I thought I had a drone pilot who was going to film at a different location. They fell through. So the same thing, we don't have the hacks budget and a crew of people. Now, if I had a crew of people, I can do some incredible things you would not believe. That's why I always film everything that the proof is there. The proof that both of us are doing is there on video. We don't talk about things theoretically. We show you what we can do. But mainly what I've been trying to do is inspiration for people. Now, the same thing happened when they see a 120-pound American Bulldog switch limp.
Amazing.
The trick dog trainers got upset. Whoa, what about a horse? No, what about a dog over 100 pounds?
We're talking about a dog.
Yeah, they can't do it.
Different animal.
They can't do it. The thing is, instead of admit that they cannot do it, and they're only using border collies and stuff, easy dogs, right? Instead of admit that, hey, I'm just way better than they are, they can't do it. Oh, I'm like, well, how do I do that? Now, people who are interested, I do have courses that right now I don't have them up like Robert Cabral does, but you can contact me. I do have, if you want to learn how to do the long distance sit stay and also the recall, I have that, but also the switch limp for dogs that are that big, because nobody knows the technique, and you could try all you want to use the techniques that people have put out on YouTube, like Kiko Pup and some other people, and she's good with border collies, but she can't do it with an American Bulldog at 120 pounds. So anyway, I'm going to say that because it proves our ability. It proves that you can move 8. You have 8 dogs. You'll never see Zach the Hack with 8 dogs. You won't see Joel the Wreckman Beckman with 8 dogs. But you'll see them raking in the money. And of course, you won't see McCluskey with 8 dogs. And that's something I want to pull out. But those people, the ones that I mentioned that we called out, how many dogs do those people have? They don't care about how many dogs do they have, because you and I both have saved a lot of dogs. We have a lot of dogs. You got 8 dogs. I've got more than 8. How many dogs do they have? They have 4 or 5 at all? Personal dogs? Do they live with them? And that's another next thing. Are they in the?
I like the fact that you brought that up, because there is a difference, and you probably will agree with me on this. You can look at a dog, as I can, and I can tell where that dog is housed. Is it housed outside? Is it housed in the house? Does the dog is it separate from the humans? Where does that dog sleep? Where does it live? You can look at my dogs and instantly my dogs live indoors with me. They have personal contact with me all the time. There's just I can't really describe it. Perhaps you have better,
I know.
a better description, but you can tell they have this longing in their eyes, and they tend to be extremely clingy whenever I meet dogs that are forced to be separate, tied out on leashes all the time. You can see that a lot around here. Dogs who are just miserable. They're in dog houses and stuff. Nobody pays attention to them, and they're basically living alarms. And I personally find that really appalling. Or people who are working all the time and they don't have time to be with their dog. They're tired. They come home and they say, "I don't want to walk you. I don't want to pay attention to you. Go away, dog. Leave me alone."
Furniture. They want furniture.
And they want decorations for their little purses. And that is a real big pet peeve with me. I can always tell when I meet a client how their dogs are. What is the relationship, or is there a relationship?